Good morning, YouTube. Warbles on a lot here. Just getting ready for this morning's Outsiders. That's Mrs. Whitetail. Dyson. Mrs. Whitetail's Joey. And this is Dyson.
Time now for Outsiders. I'm Barry Cassidy, and you're not. And neither are Sarah Madison. She's Associate Professor of Politics at the University of Melbourne. Eva Cox is with us too, Adjunct Professor at UTS, Social Commentator. Dr. Mark Trivett, Melbourne Uni Public Policy Lecturer, once upon a time the Business Council of Australia, Strategic Communications Director. Well done, everybody. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
ACT. This is what happened in Canberra overnight.
To the Labor family, thank you so much. We can confidently say that Canberra has voted for light rail.
Oh, Mark, in Canberra they know how to dream, don't they?
They're a nice oasis of stability in a world of one-term governments.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, Eva, here we have a government which is, what's this, five terms now of Labor? That's bucking the national trend.
Well, very interesting because A, they've increased their number of politicians, but B, the final result looks as though it's going to be identical to last time. So it sort of says something. I mean, the Greens didn't do particularly well, which is always interesting with Canberra. And it looks as though we'll have another coalition government there, very much like the last one.
Well, and coalition, Sarah, that's the interesting thing too, that it's effective, it would seem.
It's apparently not the end of the world for Labor and the Greens to govern together, although at the federal level that seemed to be electoral poison during the last election.
How does this work out within the ALP? Because any other part of the country, they will be at each other with knives.
Well, they've actually governed together in Tasmania and here in the ACT for a number of occasions now. So, you know, I don't know why, and of course they did it federally with under Julia Gillard's minority government as well. So, you know, it's quite a possible thing. It's just become a piece of rhetoric that it's impossible and they are to be stayed away from at all costs.
Maybe they're either a template for progressive politics on larger stages.
Well, the trouble with progressive politics, and it happens both within the ALP and between the ALP and the Greens, is they always seem to hate the people that are closest to them politically. In other words, they sort of forget that it's the other side they're supposed to be opposing and oppose each other as they fight for power. And I mean, part of the problem is I think the Greens have put more of a focus on getting seats and less of a focus on getting up ideas. And I think that that's beginning to show in some of the tensions.
I mentioned progressive politics and looked at my TV and saw Jared Henderson.
As a clash of worlds.
Yeah. Now, Mark, American politics, of course, is, well, no light rail there.
No.
It's been an extraordinary week. I was watching the debate earlier in the week and just having this feeling of my world just turning to mush before me. It was dispiriting.
Yeah, I guess in one sense it's not surprising that Trump has imploded. I guess at some point it was going to happen. I think it's probably the rapidity of it and the fact that the allegations probably speak to some level of incivility within that candidate. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the most bizarre presidential race in history.
I think that's pretty clear. The candidate, Mr. Trump, thinks, of course, it's all a plot.
I am a victim of one of the great political smear campaigns in the history of our country. They are coming after me to try and destroy what is considered by even them the greatest movement in the history of our country. There's never been anything.
A conspiracy, Sarah, and that conspiracy is taking the form of multiple women coming forward now to make claims of his misbehaviour in the past.
The level of the man's delusion is just quite extraordinary, and it is something of a relief, really, to see him implode before the election. I guess most people have been saying for a while
3 weeks to go.
They didn't think he was going to win. This has been the sort of tone of voice from experts. We think Hillary's going to win, but no one would say it absolutely categorically. And I think now it's looking much more likely that she'll win. But I mean, I think he needs to be absolutely thumped in the polls on November 8th for us to breathe a sigh of relief. I think he's still going to be in the background, being a spoiler, trying to disrupt US politics as much as he can for the foreseeable future.
That's the interesting thing, Eva, isn't it? I mean, win or lose, this movement of Donald Trump's is not going to go away.
Well, I think we've got to look at it in context. And I mean, I think one of the things I find quite scary is, despite all of the things we're all saying about now this is going to implode, he hasn't yet. We don't know whether he will. We don't know whether his supporters will not turn out en masse. And we don't know how far what's happening there reflects the same things that are happening in the UK to some degree, with some of the populist parties in Europe. And even here with some of the populist parties, I think sort of just saying, oh, Trump's making a fool of himself is naive. We've got to look at why people want to follow him and why he still seems to have a lot of people that believe him. I think that's a scary bit.
In a strange way, I mean, what he's talking about in terms of the "we was robbed, stab in the back" sort of rhetoric is, I guess, clever in a bizarre way. Is that he's not only setting up himself for, I guess, an inevitable loss, but to really cement that view amongst a lot of the people in the US who feel
that the thing is rigged.
The thing is rigged. They're inherently disadvantaged, and in a really worrying way, it sets up a dynamic over the next to the next presidential election and beyond of a group of people that are simply going to try and tear down the house no matter what.
I'm thinking Obama 2020, Michelle.
Absolutely. Who hasn't thought that this week, listening to her presidential magnificence in those couple of speeches and contrasting that with the absurdity of Trump?
We had a wonderful moment in our own politics of people attempting in their own small way to advance the position of women within the political structure.
Within my office, I'm always trying to make sure that we give a form of tutoring of people, women, bring women through, and I don't particularly want to put their names on national television, but I'm doing that precisely now. I don't think you can complain about the work that I've done to bring people through. Scotty Buckholz, though I must admit he's not a woman. Matt Canavan, O'Brien. There's three people who've gone through my office. I've got a good track record of bringing people through, and now I'm going to make sure that I do the same thing and bring through some. And I know incredibly capable ladies who will have strong political roles in the future or near future of our nation.
What do you reckon, Eva, or should I call you Wayne?
I think it's very scary. I think if they're the people that he's been bringing through, even if he does get some women to bring through, they might actually be along the same model. And I'm not quite sure that I want actually more hardline right-wingers, regardless of gender.
Someone needs to give Barnaby an anatomy lesson. I mean, this is just embarrassing for the poor bloke.
Yes. So, I mean, I just think but we do need to sort of look seriously at why there's still the continued sense that women need to be taken care of and given special care to get through, because we're really not quite capable of it in the way we are at the moment. I mean, that's part of the problem, that we're still being judged on male terms, and that makes it very difficult.
What do you think, Mark? You're not a woman.
I don't know, maybe he is.
Maybe I am.
These things are becoming increasingly unclear.
Exactly, it is. I wrote something in the Aging, which you generously asked me to contribute. I mean, I made the point in that article is that the thing is hardwired to an alpha male, dynamic in many ways. It's the confrontation. I guess it's something that people don't dispute all that much, but it's becoming increasingly so. You look at someone like Trump, it's an epitome of alpha maleness that dominates the political stage. And I mean, obviously, I can't say that I've experienced it, but I would find it incredibly confronting to be in that sort of environment day in, day out.
And that's what's made it so interesting, that it's been his sexism and his physical and verbal abuse of women that's kind of been Trump's undoing, despite all of his other transgressions on race and the economy and a range of other things. That's what's upset the Conservatives most. They've still framed it though in this really paternalistic attitude towards women, that these could be our daughters or our sisters, and so we need to look after them, rather than these are just women who should be able to navigate the world.
But suddenly and clearly, Eva, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, he has 50% of the population against him, rather than, in all these other areas there are 10% or 20%, or there are small groups of particular interest and feeling. But here he has alienated half the American population.
Well, has he? I mean, he's digging up women that are actually supporting him. He's actually playing the games around the thing and trying to create splits. I don't think we can assume that a lot of women are just that all women are automatically going to vote against Trump, because I think while his behaviour is objectionable, it is so normal. That's the point that a lot of people have made, and it's something I was also writing on in the conversation last week, is we've normalised that sort of thing, the point that Mark was just making about that particular characteristic. People think that this is the sort of stuff their husbands, their boyfriends, and other people are saying every day. So I'm not sure how horrifying it actually is. It's horrifying to the media, but I suspect that for a lot of people it's just seen, oh, well, it's just a bloke, you know, it's locker room thing, you know, we've got to actually allow men to be men and boys to be boys and all of that sort of rubbish that we've just had here with the, you know, the budgie smugglers. You know, this is just normal male behaviour.
It's interesting that when you have allegations of sexual assault and the defence could be, oh, that's just the way we talk to each other. It's a curious defence. Sarah Madison, Edith Cox and Mark Triffett are with you outsiders. One of the other big things that happened this week, Nobel Prize. Oh, look, there he is. The leading. Sundown's finished. Yes, all right, Bob, you can go now. Leading presence in global literature is Bob Dylan. Is this a timely choice, Sarah, or a category error?
Oh, look, I think you may be asking the wrong person, Jonathan. I'm going to confess that I walked out on a Bob Dylan gig once. I'd gone along to see Ani DeFranco, who was supporting him, and she was fabulous. And then about maybe 10 minutes, this mumbling, shuffling, droning man from the back behind his keyboard at the back of the stage drove me out of the room. So I appreciate his position in the sort of folk poetry of a particular era, and I think that has as much literary standing as anything else, but I'm not a fan of his music.
Another institution collapses, Eva, the Nobel Prize?
No, I don't think so. I think actually in a funny sort of way they're saying, look, you know, whatever one can say, and I'm not saying that he's a good performer, you know, in his language, in his way of dealing with issues and things like that, he actually brought up a lot of images. I'm not sure that it's worked all that well, because I think a lot of younger people don't really get the, you know, the Dylan stuff that those of us of that generation sort of saw it.
Or like John Howard, they listen to it for the tunes.
Yes. But I think it's important because I remember teaching at one stage, using the Beatles songs as a way of trying to attract some kids at school to the idea that poetry could deal with issues in different ways, and when it went to music it wasn't actually not poetry. So I think, you know, I think it opens the doors and, you know, expands the way we look at issues, and I think that's quite a good thing.
Very quickly,
yeah, I was absolutely rapt. I mean, I think the quality of his poetry is, it's psalm-like. I think it will be read for a long, long time. Someone made the analogy with Homer. It's probably a bit much, but I think, you know, the sort of stuff that
not Simpson, the other one.
That's true, yeah. But I think it was an inspired choice, and he fully deserves it.
Thank you, Mark Triffett.
Okay, we're on the upload limit. Ciao.